Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to this week's edition of Indiana Farm and Country. Big Dan Wilson alongside of Eric Koenig. And Eric, we're at your Huntington store for a very special event. Let's talk a little bit about it.
Yes, we are. Koenig Equipment was proud this morning to present a book to a local elementary school called A Year on the Farm. And we're following up the presentation of the book this morning at Flint Springs Elementary School with a book signing at our Huntington store here this afternoon. So we've got both the author and the illustrator here.
And we're going to take time to interview both of them in this particular segment of today's show. But more importantly, one of the things that we wanted to talk about is how all this came to fruition. It was pretty exciting to run across a children's book like this that had such a targeted demographic and yet still speaks to what happens on the farm to kids that most kids probably wouldn't know.
Yeah, that's true. It's a great book, very educational, especially for the younger reader. A lot of good information. Really gives you an idea of what it's like to be a farmer or what it's like to be in that line of work over the entire year. So from spring through fall, even into winter, and that the farmer's job is year-round. It really gives kids a flavor of what it's like.
Yeah, as we start to show some of the pictures of that event at Flint Springs Elementary School here in Huntington, one of the things that impressed me the most was not only the attentiveness of the children, but what surprised me was the lack or few numbers of kids that are really come from the farm. It's surprising how much that's changed. Yeah,
it really is. But even that being the case, there was still a lot of excitement around the book. You know, kids want to know about farming. You know, they see it all around them. They might not be involved in it, but they really enjoy the learning experience.
And I guess one of the things that made it really special for us was the featuring of Case IH products.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice representation of Case IH products, and excellent drawings in the book, too, that represent the equipment. And we covered all breadths. The book covers all breadths of product, from tillage to harvesting to tractors. So it's a nice book.
You know, one of the things that we wanted to pass along to everybody is the fact that, Koenig has purchased upwards of 1,000 copies of this book to give to elementary schools where their stores are. But if you want to get a copy of this book, you can always stop into any of our stores, including the one here at Huntington. And as we get the opportunity to interview the illustrator as well as the writer of this particular book, one of the things you'll find is that they put a lot of time and a lot of effort to put together a high-quality piece. And I can't speak enough about how exciting it is to go through this piece. It's a combination of illustrations as well as actual photography.
It is. It is. We're privileged to have such a great book to teach the young kids out there about farming, and we're privileged to have the author and illustrator with us to kind of give us insight to the book and why they wrote it and what the process was all about. So.
And we'll have those stories and more this week on Indiana Farm and Country.
Allen Davis Insurance Agency, with 30 years commitment to the community, providing quality insurance services. Allen is a business owner and an active farmer, and he knows firsthand the pressures of running your farming operation. Call Allen today and ask about coverage for your farm, your vehicles, your equipment, crops, and more. Now with 3 locations to serve you in Wapakoneta, St. Mary's, and Minster. Call 1-800-686-2148. That's 1-800-686-2148.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Indiana Farm and Country. Joining me now is Paul Nunn, the illustrator for the book we told you about earlier called A Year on the Farm. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. Good to see you.
Yeah, what a wonderful publication. What a great piece. And tell us a little bit about, first, let's tell us a little bit about yourself. You're from Racine, Wisconsin.
That's correct. So as a kid, I would say about my son's age, 4 years old, I loved to draw. And I told my mom that I was going to be rich and famous and an artist. So far, the artist thing has worked out well. But that was my mission in life since I was that young, to say, this is what I'm going to do. And things fell into place. I always wanted to work for the Walt Disney Company. And about the age of 22, I got that chance. They actually paid for my first commercial flight out west to go visit Disney. We worked on a ton of projects for them. I'm currently working on Disney, when I'm not doing these fun books for Case, I'm currently working on a Star Wars project for them, which is really top secret, so we can't talk about that. But yeah, so what the biggest thing with me is that I love what I do. I think I would be doing this, I shouldn't say this out loud, but I think I would be doing this if people didn't pay me. This is what I would be doing. I'd probably be living under a bridge, but but this is my passion in life. And I've seen drawing. Even today, we were with a class of kids, and you can just see the joy in their face. There's something about drawing that connects. When pencil to paper is kind of primal, and what happens to kids is they lose that at a certain age, and adults never draw anymore. Right. So I'm still doing what I was doing when I was 5, but getting paid for it. So,
a lot of exciting things that you just spoke about that we want to share with our viewers. Of course, one of the reasons why you're here in Huntington, along with the illustrator, along with the author of the book, I should say, basically is to help us promote the fact that this publication is something that we wanted to give away. Koenig wanted to give away to classrooms K through 3 in the Huntington area and the other 3 locations here in Indiana as a means to be able to communicate to younger people about what happens on the farm over a 12-month period. But one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is your association with farm. When we talked a little bit about being from Racine and basically growing up close to cornfields and on the farm, and the passion that you brought to your pen in the form of agriculture.
So what's interesting is in Racine there is the manufacturer, and it's also the headquarters there. So anybody from that area sees these vehicles in this farm equipment all over the place. And even before Case IH had come to me, I had always seen this is a Magnum tractor, but I always called it Big Red or had Big Red in my head. Yeah, right. And so on the tractors, they have this headlight here, and it looks like a smiley face to me. And I've always saw that, and then I just always imagined it with eyes. I think as an artist, or I started out as animation, which literally means to bring something to life. So my appeal is I'll put eyes on anything and bring it to life. Like this microphone could have an eye and a face, and so it's a little weird because I will imagine anything alive and then try to give it a personality.
Well, the exciting thing about it is not only the illustrations that you bring and help bring it to life, but also the combination of real photography. And then, of course, the well-written words by Holly that kind of tie it all together. It's a wonderful animated and real-life combination of graphics that tell the story very well.
Yes, and one of the things that was what we really strive for. If you look through the book, I'm going to hold it up if you can see this. This is what he's talking about. There's some photos and there's some illustrations, and they all merge together. They all work well together. And one of the things when I was first brought on was this could be a book of just photography, right? That it would be a great book. Kids love big equipment like this. This is a book that we decided we should add these characters to. And that's what was so great about Case IH is they really stand by the product. So the characters draw them in. When we first got started, we just had the tractors as characters, these guys in the back. I'll give you art so you can see that. But I took it home to him, and my son loved the book. My daughter she liked it. She was like, yeah, that's cool, Dad, good job. But she wasn't totally in love with it yet. And I'm like, how do we make this appeal to her and him? She's 8 and he's 4. So I basically just put her in the book. This character, her name is Casey. My daughter's name is Gracie. We had to make her older so she was a farmer, right? She can't be an 8-year-old farmer. I mean, you can, but you can't run a farm necessarily. And then we added this little worm, Tillis. These 2 characters, when we go to classrooms, draw the children in. They actually make them engaged. If the characters weren't there or were minimalized, kids would love it, but they wouldn't be drawn into it. They really identify with something with eyeballs, just like I do. You know what I mean?
So when we look at this piece and we try to bring it all together for the reader, it's something that's not only entertaining, but it also gives them factual information that most kids wouldn't be able to get through some other fiction or nonfiction pieces that they read normally in school.
We kind of, and this is the credit to the team and really credit to Holly, the author, we aimed to make it so a 3-year-old could pick up the book and love it, and maybe a 10-year-old could pick it up and love it, and I think we've accomplished that. We didn't dumb anything down. We wanted kids to really learn about farming. Kids that grow up on farms know it, instinctively. We wanted to do a book that could show kids that don't grow up on a farm what farming's about. And so far, they really are engaged. When we do a classroom presentation, they do tend to pick up facts. Like they will pick up some of the fun facts or some of the really technical stuff. So it's great to see that it's actually working what we plan to do.
Well, what's great to see is that there's people like you and like Holly trying to communicate what's really happening on the farm, and it's wonderful pieces like this, like You're on the Farm, that can do it in such a way, that an enjoyable way, that young people can understand it and appreciate it, because I think that's one of the things that there's a lack of out there is appreciation for where our food comes from and the story behind it. And you guys do a terrific job. But this is the first of a series. Let's talk about that.
Yes, this is a book, the first book in a series. So we are doing books based on each of the different kinds of equipment. So I call them, like the Magnum is not a Magnum, it's a Big Red. There's the sprayer is Pete the Patriot. The Steiger is Sammy Steiger. So each of these pieces of equipment are going to get their own books and highlight what's unique about them. But there's a lot of common things that all of them have, which I think is interesting. A lot of the tractors, most of the tractors, I believe, all communicate with satellites and can be driven with GPS. And there's another term that's escaping me, but they're controlled basically by a computer. That's something I don't think a lot of people understand or know about.
Well, Paul, you guys have done a wonderful job of putting this together, and obviously you did a terrific job of illustrating that. And up next is the author, Holly Dufek, and once again, we really appreciate you being a part of this show and a part of this great event here in Huntington.
Thank you. It's been a great day for us.
We'll be back with Holly up next here on Indiana Farm and Country.
Alan Davis Insurance Agency, with 30 years commitment to the community, providing quality insurance services. Alan is a business owner and an active farmer, and he knows firsthand the pressures of running your farming operation. Call Alan today and ask about coverage for your farm, your vehicles, your equipment, crops, and more. Now with 3 locations to serve you in Wapakoneta, St. Mary's, and Minster. Call 1-800-686-2148. That's 1-800-686-2148. Resources, accuracy, innovation. The True Point Agronomy Hub in Milford offers it all. Equipped with the latest automated systems, you are ensured quick and accurate product when and where you need it, minimizing your time away from the field, serving growers within a 60-mile radius. The True Point Milford location is a solution for success. Seed, nutrients, crop protection products, soil sampling, precision technology, and more. Find out more at TruePoint.com.
Welcome back to Indiana Farm and Country. Big Dan Wilson alongside Holly Dufek. And Holly, of course, is the author of that wonderful book that we've been talking about all day, A Year on the Farm. Holly, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Dan. I am from Kenosha, Wisconsin, and this is my first book that I've written, but I've been writing for more than a decade, dealing with education, and I'm just really excited about this book here, A Year on the Farm.
Well, one of the things that we talked about earlier with Paul is the fact that this particular piece is something that speaks very nicely to the demographic that we're presenting it to, K through 3, and basically it's for children anywhere between 4, 5 through 8 years old. And the way you wrote it, tell me about your connection to agriculture and the passion and the understanding and the facts that you got to be able to present a piece like this.
Absolutely. Well, my connection is my grandparents owned a farm, and on my dad's side, my brother still is in farming. So that's always been a part of who I am. And I love the history of America, especially Americana, with the farming. And so when I was given the opportunity to write for this, it was just wonderful to be able to introduce children and people into the world of agriculture, and specifically modern agriculture, because it's not what us as a culture might think about it. It's so much more. It's very scientific and technical, and so it was fun being able to. I did a lot of research, seeing how these amazing pieces of equipment. They're quite incredible with the science and technology that's in them, and so that's what we wanted to really put into this book.
Well, what's exciting is that you're dead on. I mean, and presenting the information about the equipment itself, the facts about being up on the farm. I mean, it's something that I think everybody can relate to. But when you're communicating to a younger demographic, what are some of the techniques that you use to try to, subtly move from one season to the next? It was very interesting how you presented it in the book.
As Paul said, the combining photography and illustration is really a great way for kids to get into the book. The photography is beautiful and quite colorful, and then the illustrations in with them just engage you. So it really, we went chronologically. We started in the springtime with Casey, our farmer, moving from what she would do in the spring and moved, chronologically through the season, the different jobs that she would have. And so it made sense to order the book in this direction. And I really think it's the illustrations that move it nicely through, for sure.
I think one of the things that stuck out for me was the fact that you used a young lady as far as the character that's running the farm. I think it's important for people to know that demographics on the farm have certainly changed. It's not your grandpa's farm anymore, and I think you've done a terrific job of pointing that out. But more importantly, in bringing the characters to life, bringing the equipment to life, and having them tell the story too, really seems to engage the younger demographics. And we saw that today when we brought you guys over to Flint Springs Elementary School here in Huntington.
Absolutely. The characters, this book is really about the characters. And in particular, we do have our farmer, but each piece of equipment is its own character because farming, as we all know, farming really is about the equipment. A farmer can't do this him or herself. It does take a team, and that's one of the things that we're showing here as well is Casey is the farmer. She's a modern farmer, but really she needs the help of every piece of equipment in order to get the job done.
And what do you want to accomplish with this book? And obviously, Paul and I discussed that you have a series. What do you hope to accomplish with these books?
Our main objective is really just to introduce modern farming into the lives of children. There are definitely children in this community, agriculturally, they know what's happening here, but not all children understand that food does not grow in a grocery store. We wanted to bring that to light, that farmers play such an important part of all of our lives every day, that even if you do know that, you might forget about that sometimes.
What was it like to work with people from Case IH, and how did that get incorporated into the particular feature of the book?
Absolutely. It was very important because this book, we want to make sure that everything we're saying is correct. So as I'm writing this book, I'm doing my research, and of course Paul and I are working together. He does his research to make sure his characters are accurate, and I'm doing my research to make sure what I'm saying is accurate. But then there are the specialists from Case IH that will come in, that each piece of equipment has their own specialists. And so they are reading the books and making sure that the things we're saying are accurate and true, which is pretty important.
So you had to go through a lot of hoops, it seems like, to make sure that technically speaking and logistically and aesthetically, it was pleasing to everybody across the board.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this book such a great quality book is, it is fun, but it is factual, and the things we're saying are definitely, they are correct.
We talk about your personal relationship of growing up on the farm. I think you know firsthand, how important agriculture is. It's our number one industry, not only in Indiana, but in Wisconsin and nationally. And it's something that, when you think about it, it's not just worrying about getting something from the grocery store to your plate, but getting it from the field to the plate and understanding that entire process, not just the technology that's going into bringing it there, but that full circle that brings that from planting that seed to making sure it's harvested properly and processed properly before it ends up on your plate.
Absolutely. I would love for a child to read this, and then whether they're traveling across country or wherever, if they see a Magnum, they can say, wow, that's Big Red, and I remember what he does on the farm and why he's so important, you know? So it definitely it's fascinating, and it's amazing how much work it really does take to give us things that we just take for granted that are just always there. It takes a lot of work to get those things like food or clothing or anything like that.
So where are you in the series, and how far do you see yourself going with this particular theme?
Right now, coming up within the next couple months, the next book will be out, and that will is all about big tractors. So that will focus on our characters, Big Red the Magnum and Sammy Steiger. And next summer, we will have the Combine book, which will be coming out, and that coincides, I believe, with the anniversary, a Combine anniversary for Case IH in 2015. Wow. And we have a couple other things up our sleeve that we're working on right now.
Well, Holly, it's a beautiful book, and I have to tell you, when I first saw it, read the press release, and at least had the opportunity to share it with Koenig, we were all very excited about this opportunity to be able to share it with our demographics, and we just appreciate you sharing it with us.
Thank you so much for having us. We've had such a wonderful time here with it.
You know, if people want more information, want to get in touch with you, where do they go?
For this book here, they can get in touch at shopcaseih.com for this. Or Octane Press, who is the publisher.
And if people want any more information about you and Paul, what's the best way to contact you guys?
The best way to get a hold of Paul and I are through Paul's website at paulenunn.com.
All right, terrific. Once again, Holly Dufek from beautiful Kenosha, Wisconsin, and again, the author of this wonderful book presented by Koenig Equipment and Indiana Farm and Country called A Year on the Farm. Holly, thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
We'll be back with more Indiana Farm and Country right after this.
Resources, accuracy, innovation. The True Point Agronomy Hub in Milford offers it all. Equipped with the latest automated systems, you are ensured quick and accurate product when and where you need it, minimizing your time away from the field, serving growers within a 60-mile radius. The True Point Milford location is a solution for success. Seed, nutrients, crop protection products, soil sampling, precision technology, and more. Find out more at TruePoint.com.
What we have here today is a typical Midwestern field. What we've done is excavated along this soil profile pit wall, and you can see the color difference, which indicates different levels of organic matter. And this allows us to assess some of the rooting patterns that might have been present in this crop. One of the things that producers can do is, with the use of a simple pocket knife, assess the conditions of their soil and look for the presence of compaction, which is a root limiting layer. We can begin by inserting the pocket knife to a shallow depth into the soil wall and just gently pulling up. When you start to feel excessive firmness, one has probably indicated where the compaction layer begins. Then you can determine how deep that is from the top of the soil surface. In this case, it's about 9.5 or 10 inches from the top. That way, when we go to set machinery to run in the field, we'll use this as a reference point in choosing our depth of our rippers or other field implements. The same thing is done from the top, right here in the seed bed, and then we just gently push down and we start to feel that same firmness, at approximately 3 or 4 inches from the soil surface. So we've indicated right here a potential hard pan layer. This means we've got a decent seed bed, as you can see by the population and tillering of this wheat crop, which is very good, but not necessarily an ideal root bed. One of the simple tests that a farmer can do in the field to assess water infiltration properties of his soil is to take a simple 5-gallon pail and cut the top 6 inches off it and recess it into the soil after dampening an area. A good Midwestern soil should be able to store about 25% by volume of available water for crop growth. In other words, in the top 12 inches of soil, we might want to have 3 inches of water for root uptake after a nice rainstorm.
What we want to take now from the step of finding that compaction layer, and we found it important to just put the point under the layer. This one happens to be a 7-inch wide point. That means from the wing to wing. The tip breaks soil out in a pattern like that. All right, now once that soil is broken, we want the wing to do a lift, twist, and roll. And we want to put the tip just below that layer. We found an inch is sufficient so we can keep the least amount of energy for the maximum amount of soil relocation.
Another feature we want to look at in terms of assessing our tillage practices is how level they are on the surface and the individual clod size output that is left behind the machine after the tillage pass. One of our goals was to have no clod size bigger than a 6-inch piece. We found after years of study and millions of manually collected data points that when we have pieces bigger than this, they can put at risk a seedling from emerging properly in the spring, even though several frost cycles and even a spring tillage pass might have occurred prior to planting.
Let's examine some of the steps we went through. First, we had to find compaction layer if it's present. Number 2, that establishes the depth we want to run, and the importance then of just being an inch beneath it, and then using a wing point to get relocation of fertilizer and residue. Number 3, then as we look through that, is how do we leave the finish on top of the surface?
And all together combine these factors in helping plants thrive.
Resources, accuracy, innovation. The True Point Agronomy Hub in Milford offers it all. Equipped with the latest automated systems, you are ensured quick and accurate product when and where you need it, minimizing your time away from the field, serving growers within a 60-mile radius. The True Point Milford location is a solution for success. Seed, nutrients, crop protection products, soil sampling, precision technology, and more. Find out more at TruePoint.com.